What's up, hockey fans, and welcome to episode number 99 of Marty's Illegal Stick. It's our favorite time of the year now. And by the way, our show is brought to you by the Sports History Network. I almost forgot to mention that. But I am your host, Scott Kinville, and going alongside me here for this fun trip through the NHL playoffs is going to be our co-host, Mr. Chris Mazzotti, who I had to laugh because he threw me a curveball. He was wearing a Rangers shirt before the intro video went on. I come back, and he's got a Pittsburgh Penguins shirt draped all over him. So please, Chris, do tell. What is this all about?
I thought they should be represented because they're not in the playoffs. And in that way, don't we all win? Like every team's a winner because Pittsburgh, they're done. They're gone. They ain't winning. They ain't winning nothing but golf times. That's it.
But they are going to be represented in the draft lottery.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be something?
You know, boy, I'm actually kind of scared it's going to happen.
Oh man, let QAnon grab a hold of that one if it happens because they got something there.
Yeah, right. It goes from Lemieux to Crosby to Connor Bedard.
I know when last we left, we didn't know if they would make it in or not, and what a colossal beating they took from the Blackhawks to see their way out of the playoffs.
We were joking about that too. There's no way that happens, but can you imagine if it did? Oh, it did. Sorry.
It did. It did badly. It did and you know, that was my point with them getting in anyway. They played so brutal down the stretch, right. You know, beating up on teams that were not going to make anything, and except for the Blackhawks, obviously. And it was like, what's the point if Pittsburgh gets in? Like, right. Were they going to do anything? Were they going to beat anybody? Not likely. But you never know. You know, I never count Sidney Crosby out. But this year I can because he didn't make it in. Okay. Neither did Ovechkin, and that's great. That's like a win-win for me. So, you know, no matter what happens, I'm happy that Sidney Crosby does not get his name on the Stanley Cup again this year, at least.
There's always a silver lining in everything.
And they fired Hextall and the president there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
What for? What did they fire those guys for? Those guys went to Crosby last year and said, what do you want us to do with Malkin and Letang? And Crosby said, resign them. And so they did. Yeah. So somebody should be getting fired. Fire Crosby. You know, ship him out of town. That ain't ever going to happen. So, you know.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, in all reality, what they should have done, obviously, in retrospect, I mean, yeah, okay, you got to, you know, of course, Crosby's going to have his opinion, right? And I'm sure it's going to carry some weight. But to re-sign them to the length of those deals that they did, you know, and that was the thing. I could understand maybe bringing them back for a 1 or 2 year deal to try to, you know, one more kick at the can.
Right.
Mainly to make Crosby happy. I get that. But, man, what was it? That was like a 4-year extension for Letang and the same thing for Malkin, something like that.
Yeah, the Letang one doesn't hurt as bad as the Malkin one. The Malkin one's pretty badly.
It's brutal.
It's like
horrible.
You've been talking about trading this guy for 6 years.
Yeah.
And when you finally have the chance to get rid of him, you re-up him for another 4. It's like,
and now he's completely untradeable.
Oh yeah. Like, what are you gonna take? You know, nobody's gonna take him on.
No, not at all.
Unless they're gonna, you know, just give him away to some rebuilding team like Chicago or something. But
right.
I don't know if he's got a no move or what.
I'm sure he does.
I assume so. Yeah,
they all have it now, so you might as well just assume that it's there. But you know what? Yeah, you're right. The Penguins are out of the playoffs. The Capitals are out of the playoffs. But the playoffs have started. They have started.
They did.
And I know, you know, we're already 2 days into it. This being day number 3, and of course we probably should have had a show a little bit earlier. But you know, schedules being what they are, everybody gets busy. So what we did, just so everybody doesn't think that we're BSing them, we went ahead and made our brackets official on NHL.com. Mazzotti, as a matter of fact, you created the league. Marty's Illegal Stick League, I believe. So,
yes, Marty's Illegal Stick Pod, it's called.
Yeah, there it is. So our picks are in there, just so everybody knows, so that we're not making this up as front runners 3 days in. So we're going to start over in the Eastern Conference, Chris. And you know what? Let's talk about the series that everybody in the tri-state region is talking about. And that would be the New York Rangers versus the New Jersey Devils. And this is like one of those marquee matchups. It's one of those everybody was looking forward to it. I put down the Rangers in 7. It's a tight series, but your thoughts on that?
In my official bracket for our league, I put the Rangers in 6.
Okay.
Thinking that Game 6 will be at MSG. The Rangers can hopefully close it out there if they have the lead in the series. Started out well last night, as far as that prediction goes, but it's not going to be an easy climb. I think a lot of people, Stephen Valicat, who does a Rangers podcast, he doesn't know what to make of this, because he's a statistics guy. He does all kinds of advanced analytics, and he's like, these teams are so evenly matched. It's pretty crazy. Like several categories, it's like the Devils are 1, the Rangers are 2. Like
Right.
And so it's tough to say like, oh, somebody's gonna sweep or somebody's gonna plow through. But at the same time, would it surprise me? Not at all. It would not surprise me at all. If we got 3 more games like the game last night, wouldn't surprise me.
Right.
If the next 3 games went the other way and it was 5-1 Devils the whole way, then that wouldn't surprise me either. Like, it's really, they're 2 teams. What I thought this series would come down to is their goaltending and the defense, and I think that's what you saw last night. I think the goaltending and the defense really didn't show up for the Devils, and that was the difference. Vanacek's got to be better. There's no doubt. And
you're right.
The Rangers didn't even. I felt they weren't even playing that great, to tell you the truth. When the kid line is the noticeable line, and you got all that money spent on the first 2 lines. Like, people will be like, "Oh, the kid line," and they said it a bunch of times. I was watching the Rangers broadcast, which is funny that they let me. Like, you would think in the time of blackouts,
right.
For some reason, the first round of the playoffs come out, I could have watched the Devils broadcast, I could have watched the Rangers broadcast, or I could have watched the TBS national broadcast.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough series. We'll see what happens. I'm not getting my hopes up with 1 win, but it was a good start. The Rangers did what they needed to do. Now the pressure's on the Devils to adjust. I think that's what all playoff series are about. It's meeting your opponent head on. One team's going to lose, and then you adjust. You adjust for the next game. Then a lot of times what happens is that team adjusts, they do well, then the other team needs to adjust to what they did. And it's this tit for tat through 7 games. In one team comes out on top, and hopefully that's the Rangers, in my opinion. I think it will be, hopefully, because of one thing and one thing only, and that's Igor Shesterkin. If something happens to Igor, it's gonna be a short series, I think. Not that Halak's been bad, but
right.
The Devils had some. I mean, Thomas Tatar had a wide open from the slot, wide open, and Shesterkin had to come flying out, made a great save on him, but you can't be letting guys wide open into the slot. It's not gonna last very long, and as much as I like Yaroslav Halak, it's not going to go well if that's what ends up happening.
Right.
Rangers have to limit that.
And I did want to mention, too, that as of this recording today on Wednesday, that series is at 1-0 Rangers. I will tell you this, that, we talked about this before last week, and I said for New Jersey to win, they were going to have to play loose because they can, right? They're not supposed to be here, really. They weren't supposed to be second place in the Metro. Let's put it that way. So
right.
What I saw was a very young team that was very nervous in that first game last night. It was obvious, which is understandable. That team really has no playoff experience whatsoever.
Yeah,
I mean, Nico Heischer's played
said
5 playoff games, something like that.
I think they said 8 guys had never played in a playoff game. Like,
and a lot of their top players have never played in a playoff game. So that honestly was not surprising to me.
And every single Ranger has played in playoff games.
That's what I mean.
So it's a big difference.
This is exactly why I went with the Rangers in 7, because I think that their playoff experience is going to carry them. That's what I think. I think you're definitely going to see some pushback from the Devils, right?
They're
too talented to only score 1 goal, right? Again, a very nervous team last night. I think you're probably going to see a different team Thursday night. But I'll tell you, if they go down 2-0 at home, they're in a world of trouble. So now there is some pressure on the Devils to win that game too.
So I know you said you had to go out on a call. You missed part of the game.
Yeah.
You didn't see the penalty shot call then, did you?
No, I didn't. No.
So let me ask you this: if this is a penalty shot, because I did not think it should have been, based on the fact that what happens is Hughes clearly has a breakaway. Mm-hmm. So that's not up for debate. Trouba hooks him, but then Hughes is handling the puck and basically just overhandles the puck. The puck goes to the wall, and the ref blows the whistle for the penalty shot. Right. I did not think it should be a penalty shot because he had a chance to take a shot and didn't get it. He lost control of the puck. The reason he lost control of the puck wasn't based on the hook. It was based on him overhandling the puck.
I will tell you this, that nothing is going to surprise me from this league from going forward. And I think that this league is honestly so desperate to showcase their superstars that I think in this playoff, you're going to see a lot of calls that were maybe shouldn't have, especially if it was against a superstar caliber player, because they want these guys showcased so bad. Trust me, watching that Edmonton LA game the other night on ESPN, it was the Edmonton fan club in that, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, so I couldn't tell you either way because I didn't see it. My full-time job prevented me from doing that.
If a guy loses control of the puck on his own, going in on a breakaway, I feel like you call it. I still absolutely should have been a penalty.
Right.
Like he definitely got hooked, but I would think you would call the regular 2-minute minor over the penalty shot based on the fact that he just mishandled the puck on his shot. If he had gotten the shot off and it wasn't good, go ahead, give him the penalty shot.
Right.
When he loses the puck on his own, there was no shot attempt. Right. Like, I don't know how you give him a penalty shot, but that was one thing. But it's going to be tough. There's just no doubt. Rangers fans, thinking they're going to sweep already and talking smack online. Please stop. Please stop. You anger the hockey gods doing that. I fully believe in that. Do not say anything until there's 4 wins on the board. Then you can say whatever you want. But no, there's another round to go, and another round after that, and another round after that. Yeah. So,
one game
don't count your chickens.
Playoff,
it's a long road.
Exactly. Well, hey, I got some news for you. Joining us a little late is our companion here, our other co-host. He is the Beer League All-Star, Ed Stefaniak, joining the show. Ed, how are you?
Overnights is really taking a damper on my social life.
I can see this. But you know what? We appreciate your effort, buddy.
You know what? I woke up and I'm just like, what time is it? And then I remember seeing 2:30 and I'm like, I got another hour. And then I scrolled down a little bit.
Yeah, that was my fault.
And then I'm just like, 1:15. It's 1:30. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. We appreciate it. So we just got done talking about the Devils Rangers series, and I do want to move on to the Carolina New York Islanders series.
Yeah, let's talk about more relevant teams.
So this is a series that I've noticed a lot of people are picking an upset. I did. In our official bracket, I picked the Islanders in 6. As we all know what happened the other night, Carolina did win this game, or game 1. But I still think that the Islanders can take this series. What do you guys think?
Mazzati, you can start with this.
Well, I also picked the Islanders. In many of the brackets that I put together, I picked the Islanders.
Oh yeah, by the way, tell everybody how you put together a bracket for every single team being able to win.
I put a bracket together. Every team needs a break, to win. Like for example, in my Rangers bracket, that the Rangers win the cup, Boston gets beat in the next round. So every team needs a break to get to the cup. They need to not face like a super heavy duty opponent like along the way.
Right.
They're also going to have to beat a heavy duty opponent along the way. That's no doubt about that. But so I did a bracket where every team could win, basically a bracket for every team winning the cup. But my official bracket that we put into Marty's Illegal Stick Pod, I have the Rangers going all the way. Because if you don't believe, then it's not going to happen, right? But I did pick the Islanders, speaking of Islanders, Carolina, in my official bracket. I actually picked them in 5, so they better start making me look good. Because they did not look good in that game 1. I watched a lot of it. It was a boring game to watch. It was a snooze fest compared to all the other playoff hockey. It's literally the worst game I've seen so far.
You've got 2 teams that aren't exactly known for their exciting style of play as it is. So
yeah, and it's like
have a pot of coffee made.
Yeah, it's a little bit more exciting than watching paint dry. And that's I don't put it on Carolina. I put it on the Islanders because they're not playing. They didn't play their game in that first game. I didn't, and when they did, like one line did, you see Clutterbuck throwing his body around and stuff. That messes up Carolina. Sure. The Islanders have to make this a much, much more physical game than they brought in game 1. I don't know. We've talked a lot about rust in the playoffs and stuff like that. The Islanders actually finished their regular season earlier than everyone else. They hadn't played since last Wednesday.
Well,
so
showed.
It did show. Definitely showed in the first period. And I hoped that they would pick it up a little bit, but they really didn't get into that next gear that they had to get into. Sorokin played great. That's the good news. The bad news is the Islanders didn't score enough goals. So they got to pick it up. I still have faith that the Islanders can do it, but they have to do it. Carolina went with Antti Ranta. So everybody last year saying the Rangers beat a backup goaltender in Carolina. Now, granted, I know Ranta didn't play the whole series, but it turns out they played the starter now because Freddie Anderson has been relegated to the bench.
Is he maybe hurt? I don't. It's very possible with Freddie Anderson.
Freddie Anderson's always hurt.
I know, that's what I mean. So
he was playing down the stretch.
I know that
he just wasn't playing good. So at what point, you got to say Antti Ranta is the better guy. I believe he's been the better guy all year, but I think that's a big thing for Carolina is admitting that Freddie Anderson is not going to be the guy. Now, Antti Ranta wins and they keep going. What happens when Antti Ranta loses? I don't know. Do they give up on him after one game? Do they keep going with him? Do they bring in the third guy? What's his name?
Petar Kucherov?
Yeah, Kochekov, whatever.
Kochekov, yes.
Yeah.
It depends where they are at the series. If it's let's say it's a 3-1 series for Carolina and Antti Ranta gives up and it's 3-2, I say you stay with Ranta because worst case scenario it's a game 7. But if it's a 3-2 series or a 3-1 series or my mind's all over the place right now. If it's like a 2-1 series, you might have to give Freddie Anderson the chance. And if it's 3-3 and it's going on a couple losses for Antti Ranta, I would say you have to give Freddie Anderson the net.
Who you got winning the series, Ed?
Me personally, I have the Islanders.
Wow, it's a clean sweep. The clean sweep upset.
It really is Sorokin.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about that.
It's Sorokin, and it's the fact that the Islanders win, like Mazzotti said, when they play their game, they make it very uncomfortable for other teams. They play physically. They have Cal Clutterbuck going around throwing the body. They need to do that. This Carolina team is not built for physicality.
I think when you have two teams that play very similar styles, like the Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes do, you have to go with the better goaltender. And it comes down to that right there. And Ilya Sorokin is far and away the better goaltender of what anything Carolina is going to offer. Carolina does have a little bit more of an advantage in offensive firepower, but they don't have Andrei Svechnikov anymore. And that's going to hurt because not only does he score a lot of goals, he's a big physical presence for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. Let's move on. Let's go north of the border. Last night, the Tampa Bay Lightning shellacked the Toronto Maple Leafs. I was quite surprised, actually, at how out of hand that game got. In our brackets, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning in 6. I think that the Tampa Bay Lightning just have too much playoff pedigree to vote against them in this series. And again, they have the better goaltending. It's Andrei Vasilevsky against Samsonov. And I understand that Toronto has all the firepower in the world, and I give them credit for getting a little bit grittier, right? So you've got a Ryan O'Reilly. I heard Wayne Simmons is going to be coming back. He's going to be coming back from the Marlies, from what I heard. So that being said, Tampa Bay could be in some trouble because Victor Hedman got hurt early in that game last night, and so did Eric Chernak. So they're going to be down 2 defensemen potentially. Guys, what do you make of this series?
I'm actually really excited for this one. I personally have Tampa in 7. So the book at Bunting, that was a clear and intentional attack at Chernak. There's no other way around it. He knew where he was. He knew where his head was. You saw him take a quick look back and just throw his shoulder right in his jaw. I don't think he's going to be out long. I mean, it's playoffs. We've seen what we saw Joe Thornton play with a torn ACL and MCL.
Right.
So if you think a little ding to the head, which he was taken out for protocol, right?
Protocol, and I wonder if there's maybe potentially a broken jaw in there. But even so, they'll put the face cage on.
They'll put the cage right on him.
That's what hockey players do. Yeah.
But goaltending's again the X factor in this series. Vasilevsky is far better than any goaltender that Tampa has or Toronto has in the whole history of the team. Any goaltender in Toronto's history, you put him up against Vasilevsky wins hands down.
I don't know about history, but
oh yeah,
you got some Hall of Fame goaltenders.
You really think Cujo is better than Vasilevsky?
What about Johnny Bauer, Turk Broda?
I don't think Johnny Bauer. I don't even know the other guy.
Johnny
Bauer. I'll give you Johnny Bauer. But that's because history. But it's you're comparing Matt Martin and Ilya Samsonov to Andrei Vasilevsky because they're in the same series. Neither of them can shake a stick at Vasilevsky.
Not playoffs. No way.
Honestly, I don't think
Matt Murray's not even playing.
I know Matt Murray's out.
Yeah, he's out. So
Wall came in and played the last half of the game last night.
Right.
So that's one thing. But Vasilevsky wasn't good down the stretch. I had him on my hockey fantasy team, and he was letting up 7 goals a game a couple weeks in a row, 5 goals, 6 goals. And it's not that I think Vasilevsky's, lost it or he's washed up or anything like that. I think he's played a ton of hockey in the last 4 years, and there's no way that this guy isn't getting tired. There's you can see it. You can see it on his face. He is tired. Is he still phenomenal? Absolutely. But even the best guy gets tired. There's no way about it. Yeah. So I don't know if I picked Toronto in 7 actually. Just because I thought maybe this is finally the year to get over the hump. But of course they're going to prove me wrong, as they always do, and make me look like a fool. Because that's what the Leafs do. But it's something else that they lost so badly.
Right.
Embarrassing.
We just mentioned the Tampa lost their number 1 and their number 4 defenseman in this game, and they put up a 7 spot. Like, that's not good.
Exactly. I mean, I think Victor Hedman only had 6 or 7 minutes on the ice, right? Before he got hurt.
Yeah, he was out early.
Yeah.
And they took a lot of penalties. Toronto did. Tampa did too. But the Tampa ones were like, I saw a Tampa penalty on Sergachev where he like tapped the guy's shin.
Yeah.
They gave him slashing penalty. It was already like 5-2 or something at that point.
Right.
And Toronto scored on the power play. Good on them, try to get back into it. But it was like, this is obviously, this game is already out of hand. Actually, I think it was like 6-2 already. And it was, they were like, we got to make this third period interesting.
Right.
And Sergachev taps the guy on the shin. They're like, slashing. Sergachev was like, are you kidding me? Like, was it a slash? Yes, it was a slash. Did the guy go down? No. Like, did it affect play at all? No. Like, nothing. It was just a slash. It was a tap on the shin. And, you guys play hockey. That doesn't hurt you. That doesn't affect you. No. If it wasn't hard enough to make you go down, then it's, it wasn't really a slash. Right. So, I don't like seeing that stuff. Me and the refs don't get along, but I don't like seeing like the makeup call or this game's out of hand, so let's start giving the other team a bunch of calls, try to bring this game. Like, don't do that. That's worse to me than anything the refs do, because then it's like so obvious that you're just like making this game what you want to make it, or what you think the league wants to make it. Like, just let it play. That's my time when I'm like, let the kids play. When it's 6-2 and this game's out of control, like, and it's not like there's scrums and fighting and like all kinds of stuff going on. Just let them play. Put it on run time, and let's get this thing over with. Like, not let's like get the Leafs back into this game because they're getting blown out at home in game 1. Like, let's give them a whole bunch of power plays, see if they can get back into it. Like,
there's a lot of truth to that. There really is. And I think the important thing to remember here is, like, with Tampa Bay, they are not going to be intimidated by going someplace like Toronto, right? That's not going to bother them at all.
Not at all.
It's almost like they prefer it.
I think so.
At this point,
it's weird.
They have more wins in Toronto than they do at home.
Toronto, why not? So I would definitely say, Toronto obviously has to have a much better showing in game 2, and first and foremost, Samsonov's got to play better. They got to have more out of him, and Toronto just. I think you're starting to see this whole. Once you shut those top lines down, there's just not enough there. There really isn't. And
I think that's something you could say about a lot of playoff hockey, Scott.
I think you can, but Toronto can't roll 4 lines, right?
Right.
And that's where it comes down to. These teams that can roll 4 lines are the ones that are the most successful. Speaking of all that, why don't we move on to the next one, where the last matchup in the Eastern Conference, and Adam, so glad you joined us for this. The Boston Bruins versus the Florida Panthers. The Bruins are up 1-0 in this series. I actually have this series going 7 games. I just have this weird gut feeling about it. And obviously I think Boston's going to take it. But for some reason, there's some weird little feeling that I have that this is going to go 7. Am I nuts, guys?
A little.
Oh, just a little? Oh.
Just a little. No, I see what you mean.
I said 5.
Yeah, I'm with you, Masadi. But this team this Florida Panthers team has some fight in it, and I'll give them all the credit in the world fighting for that last playoff spot. And they made it in. Matthew Tkachuk is the heart and soul of that team right now, and he's gonna do everything he can to out-rat the Bruins, and it's a very tall hill to climb. I mean, you got Orlov and Bertuzzi and Hathaway and Marchand, you're going to have to out-rat, which is an impossible task. But he's going to do it. He's going to try to find a way, and if anyone can, it's Matthew Tkachuk, and he's going to try to get them off their game. Unfortunately, goaltending is a huge thing. Again, we bring up goaltending. I don't see Florida's goaltenders really anywhere near where Boston is right now. Really Lyon is really the only comparable, and he had a great game one.
I was shocked to see him starting game one.
I'm not
shocked because
he's the reason they're there.
Yeah, but you know what though? It's not like Sergei Bobrovsky has played bad all season, right?
No, he has
very good.
He's been all right.
And to me, I don't think you see Alex Lyon start game two, and I'm not blaming him for the loss in game one. But I'm sorry, when you have a two-time Vezina Trophy winner sitting on your bench and a guy who, by the way, was the reason the Columbus Blue Jackets swept the Tampa Bay Lightning in 2019, it's not like this guy hasn't been there before. And it's not like this guy hasn't played the Goliath team before and won, right? I personally, and again, I know it's second guessing and what's done is done, but I still can't believe that they didn't go with Sergei Bobrovsky in game one. I'm shocked.
Bobrovsky's so up and down, so hot and cold that I can believe it. He had such a phenomenal year last year, both every goaltender in Florida and knowing Bobrovsky's track record, that this is a year of disappointment for him because it just seems to be every other year is greatness and every other year is just disappointment. And this is and he played great all year. Like he had a good season. Like it's not. It's just not comparable to what last year was. I just don't foresee Bobrovsky really taking over the reins anymore. $10 million goalie, just throw that money out.
Yeah, that's
$10 million goaltender. Just throw that money out the window. Accept your loss, write it off on your taxes, and call it a charitable donation and get him out of there.
Mazzotti?
Well, I think one thing that Florida showed is that they can dance with Boston. That they were holding their own there for a while. That game was really tight. It was close for a while. Orlov, as much as I think that was a good pickup, he makes some stupid plays sometimes. He's not the smartest guy with the puck. He's not a bad defenseman. Sometimes he makes poor decisions. And he did that a little bit in game one. Luckily, it didn't cost him too bad. But Florida was definitely the fight that I wanted the Islanders to have. Florida had. Florida came in firing like we got to get this done. I was happy that they started with Lyon. I don't think that they should go back to Bobrovsky right away. I think that give the kid another game. If he can't get it done in game two, go back home to Florida. Let Bobrovsky play at home, and see if you could turn things around there. The old saying is you're not behind in a series till you lose a home game. So Florida hasn't lost a home game yet, but they got to do their best to try to steal game two. I did pick Boston in 5, but I got to say after watching game one, I'm not confident in my prediction. I think that Florida is actually. I think I underrated them. That they can definitely beat Boston. Will they? It's a tall task, but they showed me that they have the fight. That they have the fight to try to actually get it done. I don't know that they will, or that they have the men, but we'll see. I did think that they did a pretty good job of shutting down Boston's big guys, but at the same time, Boston missed a couple open nets, so that's another thing too. So we'll see what happens, but I did pick Boston to go to the next.
Bergeron didn't play. Boston.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Yeah, that's going to be that's a game changer right there, and Boston still won without him. So, real quick before we go over to the Western Conference, rapid fire here. Mazzotti, we know you got the Rangers coming out of the East in your official bracket. Ed, who's your Eastern Conference winner?
Boston.
All right, and that's who I got too. And I'm not. We're not going to elaborate on this because we need something to talk about for the next show. So, so before we get carried away on that, let's go over to the Western Conference. And I'm going to start at the top this time and work my way down. And the first matchup in that bracket challenge is the Colorado Avalanche, the defending champs, against the Seattle Kraken, the biggest upset of the playoffs so far. Last night, the Seattle Kraken upending the Colorado Avalanche. I have them in 5. I really was shocked to see this one. I thought Colorado was going to play much better. What do you guys think?
You picked Colorado in 5?
Colorado in 5.
Yeah, I picked Colorado in 5 as well. And like I said a couple weeks ago, I said don't sleep on Seattle because if there's a Cinderella team out of this West, I thought it was them. And they were showing it last night, man. And I didn't even think about this, but the person with the biggest chip on their shoulder in this series, take a guess.
Grubauer.
You got it, Grubauer, because they mentioned like 2 years ago this kid was run out of town for getting swept by Vegas, and now he's back. He's back to make you guys pay, like for letting him go to this expansion team. Like and you know what? He looked good. Colorado really didn't. I mean, the defense by Seattle, the whole team defense was really working. They weren't letting Colorado getting into much at all in this game.
No, they didn't.
And it was really something to see. Like I kept waiting for Colorado to like pin them in and get a bunch of shots on it. I never saw it happen. Just didn't happen.
And you know what the surprising part is too, for me anyways, Colorado for the first time all season is outside of Landeskog finally healthy. And they've been playing so well for the past 2-3 weeks. I go, they're healthy and they're getting hot at the right time. And then they go and they lay an egg. So, Ed, what do you think?
It's only game 1. It's again they're coming off of a Stanley Cup win. They're definitely a tired team and missing Landeskog. That's the captain. It is tough to play without your captain out there. With that being said, big win by Seattle. Really got to give them all the credit where it's due. They just went out there and played a hell of a game. But realistically, I had Colorado in 4. There
goes that one.
Yep, there goes that one. I'm done.
I'm done.
I realistically I didn't see Seattle coming out with that tenacity that they had. It was refreshing to see. I'm glad that they're coming out there and actually playing really well, a lot better than what I expected, especially after last year. But this isn't going to last. This isn't going to last. So something in my gut tells me Colorado sat back knowing that it's a 7-game series and said, let's see what they can bring. And they let Seattle control that game. And then they're like, okay, yeah, we can match it and do better.
Yeah.
When you're playing a team like them, when you're playing a team like Seattle, who's a wild card team, sometimes it's better off just to let them do that.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the Seattle Kraken are like the West Coast version of the New Jersey Devils, right? They're in a spot where they really shouldn't have been. Nobody was expecting this. I mean, they were in contention for second place in the Pacific Division right up until like the last 2 weeks of the season. So they're playing with house money, really. They can play loose. Whatever happens, happens. I mean, if they were to get swept, who could blame them? They're playing against the defending champs in the opening round as an expansion team in what, their second or third year? Second year, right? So for them to win game 1 is huge. It's absolutely huge. So, hey, good on them. I think you're going to see the real Colorado Avalanche show up. But, hey, congratulations to the Kraken.
And you know what? Grubauer could really be the determining factor. If he's playing with that chip on his shoulder, he could maybe steal the series. We've seen him steal them before.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, too, is that you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Ed, it's not exactly the same team as last year in Colorado. you're missing guys like Kadri, who played such a pivotal role.
Right.
And they really needed that grit in game one. They didn't have it. They really needed it. You know who's got lots of it? Seattle. Seattle's got grit on every single line.
Right.
So, Colorado definitely, I don't know if they sat back on purpose, but they definitely got slapped in the face and like, hey, it's playoffs. You guys better wake up. Because I tell you, if Seattle wins the next game, it's gonna be a tough sell up to go out onto the road, win 2 games up in Climate Pledge.
Yeah.
That building's gonna be rocking. Like it's tough. I was surprised by Seattle, and I've watched a bunch of Seattle games this year, and they're a completely different team when they have the lead. When they have the lead, they can lock it down. They can play defense. They can win a game 3-1. They've done it all year, and they showed last night that they could do it in the playoffs. So
absolutely. Could be a great series. It really is.
I'm just happy that Seattle isn't the bunch of jerks that Vegas turned out to be.
I tell you, I can't hate Seattle. I can't stand Vegas.
I have a hard
they
time
did it right.
They
did it right.
They did.
They got their expansion picks, but they didn't go crazy in free agency and buy out every player that was available and tell everybody how great they were. Nah, I mean, good for Ronnie Francis. Seriously, doing it right. He's building a solid team up there. So, like I said, can't hate him. Can't hate him at all.
Pittsburgh must be kicking their ass for letting him go.
I know, right? Oops.
Have fun with your no GM.
Let's move right along for the Dallas-Minnesota series. This one looks like it could get a little spicy. Really, I kind of look at this one as like the Battle of Minnesota, if you think about it, right? Because the Dallas Stars were at one time the Minnesota North Stars.
That
now
is
you got
true.
the Minnesota Wild. I keep expecting the Wild to just like troll the Stars and come out with those retro reverse jerseys that they have with the old Minnesota North Stars. That'd be awesome.
I would love it.
I don't think that they can play in any retro jerseys in the playoffs.
I don't think they can either. But it would just be great if they just did it anyway.
The playoff jerseys have to have that playoff seal on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, remember a couple of years ago, Carolina wore their alternates, which is now their homes.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
All it is just putting putting a patch on.
Right. Yeah, that is very true. That's a good point.
Now, with that being said, I don't think we're going to see a reverse retro ever again. But it would be kind of nice to see those in the playoffs. Maybe do it for the finals. Just wear reverse retros the whole finals.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be so cool.
I do that in video games all the time.
Yeah, but there you go.
I always wear the reverse retro in the video game.
You gotta. I don't think I've worn a regular jersey in video games ever. It's always been alternates and reverse retros.
But at any rate, this series is at 1-0 Minnesota after they won in double overtime in Dallas the other night.
On one leg.
On one leg. This is going to be a nasty series. Joe Pavelski took a pretty bad hit from Ryan Suter, knocked him out of the game.
Matt Dumba.
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt Dumba. You're right. It was Matt Dumba. Who did Ryan Suter hit? Somebody.
Ryan Suter's on Dallas now.
Dallas, yeah. See, that's so confusing.
It is,
right?
It is.
Yeah, because he hit Kaprizov, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's what. Okay, yeah. So, anyways, I've got Dallas in 6 in my official bracket. I just think there's too much there, too much talent for Dallas. But what do you guys think?
I'm thinking Dallas in 5. Dallas owned that overtime. It takes one shot to win in overtime. Minnesota found the back of the net, and good for them. But outside of that, Dallas owned that overtime. They have the skill. They have the not as nearly as much grit as they don't have nearly as much grit as Minnesota, but they got some grit. But I don't see Minnesota coming out and winning it. It's going to be close every game, but it's going to be just consistent. And now Dallas is going to come gunning for everyone's heads after Pavelski. It's going to get out of hand. This series is going to get out of hand, and I'm here to watch it. And I'm going to be excited for every bit of it.
Mazzotti?
I also picked Dallas in 6. And I watched this game one, And I don't think that Minnesota beat Dallas as much as Dallas beat Dallas. Like that's what happened in game one. Dallas got too much in their own head, too much looking for the sweet pass finish. There's a couple times where guys could have shot and they went to pass. Like get shots on the goalie. They weren't playing. Minnesota didn't play Fleury, so like I just feel like Dallas let Minnesota hang around in this game and hang around and hang around. And Ed's right. Overtime was dominated by Dallas. The whole overtime was in the Dallas offensive zone. But you give, Minnesota a chance or two here or there. Like I said, Ryan Hartman was playing on one leg. I don't know what's wrong with his knee, but something's wrong with his knee. And it was obvious. And he gets the game-winning goal. It's like amazing, like that guy could do that, and that's a great rallying for Minnesota, which is dangerous for Dallas. You do not need a team to rally around a hurt player or any type of thing like that. That's extra fuel for that team that you don't need to give them. Like, and when he scores that overtime game-winning goal, I'm just like, that's real bad news for Dallas. Yeah. Because it's not just the loss, it's everything that goes with it. With that player scoring that goal at that time, fueling everybody else on Minnesota who's not hurt to say to themselves, well, Jesus Christ, this guy could do it on one leg. I better get my act together. You know what I mean? Like, and, the physicality is obviously going to be real in this series. I don't think these teams like each other very much. They're division rivals. And they're showing it. They're showing it. Honestly, this game had more jam than Rangers Devils. Like it really did. Because the Devils are trying to just be fast, and Minnesota's definitely putting their physicality on Dallas. Oh, yeah. And Dallas has enough physicality on themselves to bring it back, but they got to score. Like 2 goals for the amount of shots and offensive zone time they had. Like they got to score more. I hope they can get it done. Losing Pavelski is a big loss.
Sure is.
You're going to need Sagan to really step it up. He's got to turn into Sagan from 10 years ago, like because he's really the guy in Dallas that's letting the team down at this point.
Well, like his
Benn contract. Too. What's that?
Jamie Benn too. He's going to have to pick it up.
Jamie Benn's been good all year, though.
He's been good. But what I'm saying is he's got to turn into Jamie Benn from like 5 years ago.
Well, he's one of the players that was passing too much in that game. I saw several times where Ben could have taken the shot, and he's trying to set up a point man or a wing man. It's like, put it on net, man. Put pucks on net. We saw this in all the game ones. You put pucks on net, stuff happens, and it could work out in your favor. Like, I thought that was the biggest fault to New Jersey. They did not put enough pucks on net. Like, they were shooting, they were getting opportunities, but they started, especially on the power play, they started looking too much for that pass. And Dallas needs to watch out for that. They got to just keep putting them on, put the pressure on. Minnesota, good on them. They got a lot of heart. They got guys with heart like Zuccarello who are never going to quit. But Zuccarello's small, and Zuccarello's not strong on the puck. You got to impose your will. And honestly, that's the reason why Zuccarello's not on the Rangers anymore. Is because the Rangers got sick of seeing him in the playoffs getting crushed into the boards. Like I know we don't like to say guys are too small for the league. And Zuccarello's outstanding talent, but he is too small for the league. Like he gets hit in the playoffs. This is why he doesn't have a ring, because he can't handle the physicality in the playoffs. Yeah. And there's no amount of strength training and whatever that's going to get around the fact that you're 5'4" or 5'6" on skates. Like, so it's like, I think Dallas in 6 is still a good prediction.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be a street fight. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, especially after that Dumba hit.
Oh, yeah. Game
they
2 is going to be
were
quite
running
spicy.
Dumbo after that. They were definitely running Dumbo.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a good one
Max
to watch.
Domi went right at him.
He did.
Which how they didn't give him any extent, substantial, at least a game.
Yeah,
for that, just to cool it down, just to be like, hey, we're doing this to keep you safe next game. No, they're just throwing him to the wolves. They're just like, here, you want to do that? All right, go on out there.
Go for it.
Good for him because he has Foligno and Reeves to back him up.
Right.
But, they're not always going to be out there when he's out there.
Sure, absolutely.
Another guy there, Ed, that's got to step it up for Dallas is Domi. Domi was supposed to be this superstar kid a few years ago. He's cooled off immensely. He needs to pick it back up. Especially he's a free agent, right? At the end of the season.
At the end of the season, yeah.
So he needs this. He needs this for a good contract.
He's been riding, and I like Max Domi. I really do. I like the way he plays. I honestly like he's been such a just like what's it called?
Journeyman.
Journeyman's not even the word I want to use. He's like a luggage carrier because he's always on the move.
Yeah.
He's always in trade talks. He's always traded. He's been in the league 6 years? He's been on 5 different teams?
Yeah, something like that.
Arizona,
this is 4th or 5th.
Yeah, 4th or 5th. Chicago, Montreal, now Dallas, Arizona. He's been so many different places that realistically I don't know if he's gonna be around the league much longer.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. See, he picks up this playoff. If he becomes the Devontae Smith-Pelly of the Dallas Stars this year, all of a sudden he talks himself into a nice 6-year, $6 million contract or something like that. Whereas he has a dry playoffs, he might be taking a PTO next year. That's really could be the difference.
Honestly, I could see him signing with a team like St. Louis next year.
Hey, you never know. Somebody could always use somebody like him. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
especially if he's willing to play like on a 1-year prove-it deal.
Wasn't he doing that this year?
Yeah, well, he might just need another prove-it deal.
He's had like 3 prove-it deals in a row.
This is his next chance deal. Anyways, moving right along. Let's go into this Winnipeg-Vegas series. A rematch of the 2017 Western Conference Finals. If you recall that year, Winnipeg was pretty much in the driver's seat. Remember, they were supposed to be strong contenders for the Cup. The Cinderella Vegas Golden Knights knocked them out. And now the roles are a little bit reversed. So Vegas entered this game, game 1, number 1 seed in the Western Conference, whereas Winnipeg entered as the 8th seed, wild card 2. However, they played the game last night, and Winnipeg pretty much mopped the floor with them. 5-1, Winnipeg wins this game. They're up in this series 1-0. I did get a chance to watch this game, and I will say Winnipeg was impressive. They really were. Vegas kind of looked like a team that was lost out on that ice last night. They really did. Kind of interesting with Vegas that they started Laurent Brossoit instead of Jonathan Quick. I was quite surprised by that, but hey, whatever. I have the Winnipeg Jets in 6 in this series, and I submitted this bracket on Monday night, so nobody can accuse me of saying, "Oh, Winnipeg won game 1. Here we go. He's jumping on the bandwagon." No. I just think that Winnipeg, once again, this comes down to better goaltending, and I think Winnipeg's offense can keep up with that Vegas Golden Knights offense. What do you guys think?
I agree. I really agree with you, Scott, on this one because Quick, like you said before, Quick's a shell of his former self, and Laurent Brossoit, he's not phenomenal. He's good enough to be in the NHL, but he's not phenomenal, and he's definitely no Connor Hellebuck. Goaltending's a big X factor here. When you look at the firepower between both teams, you have Eichel and Mark Stone, and you have
who's miraculously back for game 1, by the way.
We all knew that was going to happen. And who else? Phil Kessel, who is quite very much a shell of his former self. Also,
yeah, Shea Theodore out on the blue line.
Shea Theodore, and you look at Winnipeg where they have Mark Scheifele and Morrissey's having a phenomenal year. Just
Kyle Connor,
Pierre-Luc Dubois. They have who Pierre-Luc Dubois is playing. This is his tryout for Montreal next year.
Neil Pionk had a really nice game.
He did.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
and Nikolai Ehlers didn't even play.
Yeah. So really, it comes down to goaltending and defense, and I think Winnipeg has them beat on both aspects. Vegas. I think the Vegas flu is real. I do, but that's regular season. Playoffs. These players are gonna stay in their hotel. They're gonna eat properly. They're going to avoid the gambling floor.
Well, you got to remember too, Vegas has been in the league long enough where just about every player in this league has had a regular season visit to Vegas, get that all out of their systems. And like you just said, Ed, this is the playoff time. Like, okay, yeah, we did that when we were here in January during regular season. Now I don't care. I want to win a cup.
Yeah, exactly. So Vegas, I think a lot of Vegas's success does come from the fact that they are in Vegas. And realistically, they're not great. They're not. They're just a good team in a weak division. They're a good team in a weak division. If they were in the East, they would be in a wild card spot. Having to play teams like Tampa, Boston, and Toronto, and the Rangers every other night.
That's actually a pretty good point. Actually,
so. Winnipeg, Winnipeg is a lot closer to Vegas than Vegas is to Tampa or Toronto. So realistically, they can pull this one off. Winnipeg could very easily pull this one off. And I could see Winnipeg possibly going on a Cinderella run because no one expected it. They stripped their captain this year. They fired their coach, Paul Maurice left halfway through last year. Everything was stacked against Winnipeg this year. You have players, hinting at that they want to trade, and Pierre-Luc Dubois wanting to go to Montreal, and it's basically an open secret at this point. So what are they playing for? And they're all playing for their next contract, their next team, but they're going to get success out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you're going to see Winnipeg. Now, they're going to run away with the series. I think the series is, going to be 5 games at most.
Wow. Interesting. What say you, Mr. Mazzotti?
I picked in my official bracket Vegas in 6. And I watched a bunch of Vegas games going down the stretch, hoping that they would lose, hoping that Nashville would beat them twice or whatever, make it in. It did not happen, and Vegas looked good. They looked good in those games. I'm almost wondering if putting Mark Stone back in the lineup didn't screw things up royally last night, because Mark Stone didn't look great. I mean, he definitely didn't look Mark Stone-like. And I love Mark Stone. I think he's one of the best players in the league. I would love to have him on my team any day of the week. I hated him in Ottawa. He was a really pesky guy. I was so happy when he went out west. Like, I don't have to see this guy anymore. Like, great, because he's one of those guys that's just got tons of heart. Never gives up on a play. Never gives up. And I did not see that last night. He did. It's one thing to bring a guy back off of LTIR if he's healthy. It's another thing to just bring him back because it's the playoffs. And I think the latter happened here. I think they just brought him back because it's the playoffs and not because he's necessarily 100% ready to go. I think, unfortunately, that this might be the end of his career. That he might be done after this. With the back problems he's had, the surgeries he's got to go through. I just don't know what's left in the tank for Mark Stone. Whether it's worth it, in all honesty, your quality of life is worth it.
Right.
I mean, he's got plenty of money. It's not a money issue. It shouldn't be a money issue at this point. So I like him. I think he could be, a really great coach someday or something like that if he wanted to be. But he did not look good. And I was happy to see him out there. I was like, oh, great, he's back. He didn't do anything in this game. I mean, he if anything, he hurt Vegas. They did not look fast. All of a sudden, Vegas wasn't fast. Jack Eichel playing his first playoff game. He looked a bit timid. I think that a lot of these things factored in. I think a lot of these things are going to factor out in the next game. I think Vegas is going to turn this around. Winnipeg looked good. They played hard. They played good defense. Hellebuck had a heck of a game. And these are things that would all lead to Winnipeg winning. I just the way Winnipeg finished the season was not great. They were almost actively trying to not make the playoffs there for the last 3 weeks. And then the last week, their coach calls them out on it. They win the last 2 games and make it in. And that's basically what happened. It's like, okay, Winnipeg, great. Good on you for making it in. And now you won game 1, but they have to keep it going they're going to have to double down. Because there's no way Vegas is going to play the mediocre game that they played last night. Because Vegas didn't. I mean, I'm watching the game. I did not feel at any point that Vegas was about to turn this game around and take them down. It just wasn't happening. You could see it all game. Vegas was on an auto skate.
Right. That was surprising, really.
Yeah, it is, because like I said, I watched a bunch of Vegas games this year. I never see them play like that.
Especially from a Bruce Cassidy team. Yeah,
that's why I really think it had something to do with Stone coming back, the lines getting rejuggled. You got, I think coaches, they got to stop messing with the lines so much. I get it. If nothing's working, mess with your lines, go ahead. Gallant does that. I get that. They're taking down your top line, move one of those guys to another line, try to get something going. That makes sense. But hey, we're doing really great down the stretch. Now we're going to insert this all-star that hasn't played in almost 5 months back into the lineup and move all you guys around. And some of you just got here, 6 weeks ago. You don't even know how this guy plays. It's a tall order for game 1 in the playoffs, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, I had Vegas in 6, but would not surprise me if it went the other way. Out of all the brackets that I did make, though, which I made 16 of them, I only picked Winnipeg in 3. So,
oh man, you put way too much time and effort into this. So let's talk about the last series. The Edmonton Oilers and the LA Kings. A rematch from last season. That one went 7. My personal prediction is, and it hurt to have to do this, but I went with Edmonton in 7 on this one. For me, the biggest factor for LA is Kevin Fiala. He's out of the lineup, and they don't think he's going to be back in this series. Kevin Fiala was a huge part of that Kings offense, and the Kings are going to have the offense to keep up with the Oilers. Gabe Vilardi is supposed to be back tonight for game 2, which is good news for them. However, they did win game 1, and that was one heck of a game to watch because Edmonton pretty much dominated that game for 2 periods, and they were up with 3-1 with 10 minutes left in the game. The Kings come back and tie it, and then they win it in overtime to shock Oiler Nation, if you will. I wish we would stop calling fan bases Nation. I don't know why that just irritates me so much. But anyways.
They don't for the Rangers, by the way. It's Rangers Town.
Okay, well, you know what, though? I will say that's better than Nation. Okay? I will say that.
Don't for the Rangers. It's Losers Village.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy!
Hey, guess what? Awesome. Guess what, Ed? The Bruins and the Rangers are the same amount of cups in the last 40 years. So there you go.
Hey, listen. I go by my lifetime, and the Rangers won their cup a year into my lifetime. So I don't even count it. I didn't even get a chance to watch it.
I got it on VHS if you want.
It's like Yankees fans. Oh, 27 rings, 27 rings. I'm like, you were alive for 6 of them.
Not me.
No, you were alive for all of them, Scott. You old man.
But let's get back to this Edmonton LA series. The Kings actually shut Connor McDavid down. They kept him off the scoreboard. They couldn't do the same with Leon Draisaitl. What do you think, guys? Is this for real? Can LA do this?
LA can do it. Will they do it? I have no idea. I mean, I picked Edmonton in 5. Just because and when I pick a team in 5, that doesn't mean it's a blowout. You know what I mean?
Right.
The Rangers lost the cup in 5 to LA back in 14. Every one of those games was close.
Right.
It could have easily just been 4-1 Rangers as it was 4-1 Kings.
Right.
3 of the games went to overtime or more. So I kind of saw that's how this going. Like I saw as low scoring. You put them together. Both goaltenders I don't count on, really. I don't think Korpisalo's that great. I don't think Skinner's that great.
I will say Korpisalo kept the Kings in that game, in game 1.
He absolutely did. But how long is he going to keep being able to do this? How long are they going to be able to shut McDavid down? Did they really actually shut him down? I mean, I don't even think there is shutting McDavid down. You kind of just hope to contain him, which they did a pretty good job of, But at the same time, I think Draisaitl's got to be better. Again, times where he should be shooting, he's looking for passes. He missed passes, which I don't think I ever saw him do. Uncontested, missing like a sauce pass over a guy's stick, and you don't get it through. I'm like, when does he miss that? He's like the assist man. So it was a surprising game to say the least. Again, Edmonton let LA hang around. You can't let teams hang around. The game isn't done when you're up 3-1 with 8 minutes and 30 seconds left. The game is done at 0-0-0 on the clock.
Right.
And that's what happened to Edmonton. Edmonton took their foot off the gas and thought they could coast out the last 10 minutes, and LA had other ideas about that. And they showed them. And it's like, you do not want to get into overtime with a team. We've seen it over and over and over. Overtime in the playoffs kills teams. It just kills them. You let a game get away, and that's it. You go into overtime, anybody could. The same thing in the Dallas game. You let a team hang around. They only need one shot to win, guys. You get a power play, you got to bury it. You can't let the team get off that power play and use that momentum from the penalty kill to take your ass down when they've only had one shot against your last 30.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel that this series is going to go. I feel like Edmonton's defense, I don't think they looked good in this game. They were not doing enough to shut LA's chances down going down that stretch, and LA made them pay. And I'm very much in fear for my prediction on this one, because I highly see that LA could take them down. I really don't know if this is how Edmonton plays in game 1 at home with all their fans backing them and all this hype and your division rival, and you let this is a huge momentum swing. I mean, huge, because they had the lead. They had this game at hand. It was done. And LA came back. They scored that tying goal, and you could see it on everybody's faces the second they tied that game. Edmonton may as well just give them the game to LA right then, because I could tell there's no way this is going to go well for the Oilers. You can see it.
How about you, Ed?
I don't think there's any. You woke up a beast in McDavid. He's now upset that he didn't get a point, so he's gonna go out there and get 5 next game. I'm just saying, it's bound to happen. I have Edmonton in 5. I personally don't see them see LA really hanging around. No, they got their win. Good on them, but it really comes down to the fact that can LA's defense further contain McDavid and Draisaitl? And I don't think I can't see it happening. They're kind of a wash with goaltending and a wash with defense. I don't really think either team has stellar goaltending or stellar defense, but McDavid and Draisaitl can really, really open this series up for Edmonton, and I don't really see McDavid going pointless again.
I've mentioned this before, and we can sit there and sing the praises about Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and that's great. They're great players. But we're into year 8. And quite frankly, I'm not convinced they're winners. I'm just not. You can have all the stellar regular seasons you want. But if you can't do it in the playoffs, at some point, you got to start wondering, right? Okay, great. Connor McDavid's going to go out and score 5 points next game. Okay, whatever. That's fine. But where is this team? Does this team have what it takes to get to the top? I don't think they do.
No.
I really don't. And that's not. And listen, that's not all on McDavid and Draisaitl. That's also on their management.
Yeah, exactly.
The general management.
Yeah.
Ken Holland,
look at this team year after year after year and say, we can't keep the darn puck out of the net. What is going on here? Right? Stuart Skinner was a nice story. Yeah, great. But if you're serious about winning a Stanley Cup, you're going to ride Stuart Skinner to the promised land?
They mentioned in that Vegas game last night that Brassard was on waivers this year.
Yeah.
Anybody in the league could have picked him up out of Vegas, and nobody did. So, you're right about that. Getting to what you were saying about McDavid and Draisaitl, Marcel Dion, one of the best NHL players of all time. How many cups he got?
That's kind of an unfair comparison, though, because Marcel Dion never had a Leon Draisaitl.
That's true. That's actually my point. Is that he was also on mismanaged teams. Thought, you only need one superstar. Well, Edmonton's got 2, and what else are you doing? Right. It's
what my point is.
Yeah, I'm encouraging your point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay, like Vander Kane comes in, like he's got to do something. Like these guys got to step up. Like you can't just be. And I get it's hard because all year long they didn't have to, because every day, every game, it's the McDavid Draisaitl show, right? And occasionally that new defenseman they got, Pots a goal. What's his name?
Matthias Ekholm?
No, the one since Ekholm came in. I had him on my fantasy team. I can't think of his name. Anyway, this is the young kid. He plays with Ekholm. Bouchard, that's it. So he's been potting goals for them lately. But that's it. Like, Darnell Nurse, like, for all this hype about Darnell Nurse, I hardly ever see a highlight reel out of the guy.
Right.
A highlight reel hit, a highlight reel shot.
Not for somebody making $9 million a year.
Yeah, like, what's the big deal with this guy? I don't know. Like, it's not a guy that I'm going like, oh, I wish he was on my team. I don't, frankly. Like, especially at that price tag. Like, I'll keep Jacob Trouba. I think he's the same guy. Like, actually, Trouba, I think, is better. So it's like, I really, it's shocking to me that Edmonton did this in game 1, and my pick is blown now because there's no way this is 5. There's no way Edmonton's not winning the next 4 games. It's not going to happen. Nope. This series is going 7. No way about it. The only way it ends in 5 is if LA wins, 3 of the next 4, which could happen. Could easily happen after watching game 1. Really.
Well, here's the thing,
I think
right?
LA's in the driver's seat. They got no pressure on them at all. All the pressure's on Edmonton. And who has the momentum? LA. Like it's a tall order right now for Edmonton.
Well, and you clearly saw Edmonton get frustrated in the last half of that game. Clearly, they were playing completely undisciplined. As a matter of fact, it was a tripping penalty that led to the overtime goal. So Edmonton's got to keep their heads. They really do. I mean, and you're right. I get it. There's all kinds of pressure, especially on McDavid and Draisaitl, for reasons I just stated. After a while, you got to start saying, guys, you've been together long enough here. You got to have something to show for it. And so I don't know. Like I said, I still think, with a 7-game series, it's hard to bet against a Connor McDavid and a Leon Draisaitl. It really is. But the series is going to be much better than anybody thinks it is. So we shall soon see. Guys, real quick, and don't spoil it, just one answer. Who you got coming out of the West?
I'd pick Edmonton.
How about you, Ed?
Dallas.
Okay, I had Colorado. So interesting. More for us to talk about next week.
And granted, at this point, it could be any of them.
It could be anybody. Yeah. Well, that West has been wide open all season. So why wouldn't it be in the playoffs too, right?
Luckily,
Exactly.
I have a bracket that fulfills every outcome.
Yeah, see, there you go. That's why you the ultimate hedging of the bets. Guys, let's close this out like we always do with the Zamboni Time Machine. And this one's a little bit close to home for us. Because for anybody who doesn't know, we either live in Utica or we live in the Utica area. So this is a Utica-related Zamboni Time Machine. The Zamboni Time Machine is brought to you by Zamboni.com, and the Zamboni name is used with permission. This week, the Zamboni Time Machine takes us back to June 3rd and 4th of 1976. The dates Hollywood came to the Utica Memorial Auditorium for the filming of the legendary movie Slapshot. Hockey fans and non-hockey fans alike know this movie, but for most hockey fans, this movie is the Holy Grail. Many of the scenes in this movie are forever etched in hockey lore, including one filmed at the Aud. In this scene, the Aud represents the home rink of the Peterborough Patriots, the Charlestown Chiefs' opponent. A brawl breaks out before the game even starts, and during the national anthem, the referee attempts to admonish the Hanson brothers, prompting the famous "I'm listening to the effing song" response. Some may not know it, but the Hanson brothers were actual hockey players. Brothers Steve, Jeff, and Jack Carlson played for the Johnstown Jets in the North American Hockey League. Although Jack Carlson would be replaced by Jack Hansen in the movie after he was called up to the World Hockey Association. The Jets were a big rival of Utica's own Mohawk Valley Comets. There is another scene in the movie where the Hanson brothers go into the stands to fight the crowd. This actually happened at the Aud a couple of years prior to the movie in a game between the Jets and the Comets, and Steve Carlson was right in the middle of it. He and his brothers were hauled across the street to the police station, still wearing their uniforms. Crime did pay in this instance, however, as the Hanson brothers would go on to worldwide notoriety thanks to the Slapshot, and Steve Carlson even played one season in the NHL for the Los Angeles Kings. And that, my friends, concludes this week's trip on the Zamboni Time Machine. Right here at home.
I tell people that story online all the time. That our arena had Slapshot filmed and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, it's one of the best scenes of the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it really is.
The broken glasses.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm listening to the effing song and the ref doesn't know what to do. Like, guy's bloody before the game started. But the anthem is very important to him.
Exactly. Oh, boy. Well, guys, this has been a blast, as always. And you know what? Let's do this again next week.
Sounds good. Make sure you call me before it starts. So I don't
that was my fault.
He didn't want to wake you up.
Yeah, I did. I felt bad for you. I wanted to let you sleep. You know?
I need my beauty sleep. I know.
You know? So
obviously, he's not getting enough.
No, obviously.
That came back for that Rangers crack.
Oh, man. You know what? Well deserved. I love a good shirt.
All righty.
I think one thing we can agree on is that this playoff hockey so far, for the most part, has been really great.
Yeah, it has.
It has been one of the best first. I mean, I know we only saw one game of each series so far, but a lot of them were really great.
Oh, absolutely.
Only one not worth watching so far was Islanders Canes.
Yep.
Which are not worth watching to begin with.
Yeah, just bring the coffee, like I said. That's all. All right. For Chris Pizzotti, for Ed Stefaniak, I'm Scott Kimball. Thanks for watching and listening, and we will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick.
Bye.